Divorce lawyers of Reddit, what are some of your most memorable cases? Had a husband and wife go toe to toe over an ashtray they got in Vegas at some point. Neither smoked, strangely enough. Spent nearly $5,000 for me and another attorney to duke it out in court over the silly thing. Prior to proceeding, I explained what the cost would be to argue over something silly like this, and that he could give me $2,500 and I would fly to Vegas for the weekend and get him an identical one instead. He said he didn't care about the costs because he intended to smash it on the courthouse steps in front of her if we won. We won and he followed through with the smashing. He laughed and said the look on her face was worth much more than $2,500. People get crazy in divorce proceedings. Not a lawyer, but as a courthouse clerk, I had a court order come across my desk that explicitly banned a father from playing Minecraft with his son over the internet because the ex-wife alleged that the in-game chat was a form of improper contact that wasn't outlined in their custody or visitation plan. I wouldn't recommend it, but one of the best ways to stick it to your ex and to skip most of fallout is to die during the legal battle. In this case, the couple orally was declared divorced, but before the official paperwork is finalized the husband dies. So what does the court do? Well, it takes the courts 2 years to sort out how this should be handled, and then the court says that the divorce proceedings must continue with somebody to represent the husband's interests. So now the wife has to divide everything 50-50 with a dead man. If he had died 2 weeks sooner, she would have avoided years of court hearings, thousands in legal fees, and kept everything for herself. A friend who is a lawyer told me a pretty crazy story about a wealthy couple splitting up. The woman hid millions of dollars overseas and cut up all her husband's clothing with a pair of scissors. These shenanigans caused her to get almost nothing. My father did divorce law for many years. We were in Virginia Beach for a tournament I was in with a friend of mine and his father. This is back around '07. My dad got a call from a forensic accountant he hired to track down some accounts his client knew her husband stashed money in. He was asked to pull over and to put him on speaker because he would not believe what he was about to tell him. The accountant traced all of his money to 3 bank accounts totaling over $300 million in another country. My friend's father screamed. My father dropped his phone and there were numerous WTFs from the backseat. My father's client made out with 2 of the 3 accounts and they walked away silently. He was paid in full, given a small bonus, and has never heard from her again. My client had a son named Snoop Frog and neither parent wanted custody. My aunt has been divorced for quite some time. She drives her attorney crazy with her requests or demands. Most recently she took her husband to court over. He switched the beneficiary of his life insurance policy from her, the ex-wife, to their children. She wants court-ordered drug tests weekly. She found out from her friend who works at a pharmacy that he has had quite a few narcotic prescriptions, but obviously can't enter that into evidence, or friend will be fired. Wants to know the days he's working and locations, so she can have her private investigator keep an eye out and make sure the new girlfriend isn't joining him at hotels he's charging on his work card. At some point she just needs to let it go and move on. She got the house, and the house payments, the kids, the boat, and the Marriott points. He doesn't pay alimony or child support, so it seems like it worked out well. The husband's statement of property listed all the food in the kitchen as of the date of separation, complete with estimated values for each item. Campbell's vegetable soup, 79 cents. Not a divorce lawyer but a child of divorce. Happened when I was about 6 or 7, I'm 18 now. I learned this about a year ago. My mother often likes to talk about how my father didn't offer any financial assistance during the divorce and his involvement was purely selfish, and a common thing she's told me is that he's never paid for my schooling, which is true post-divorce. However, what I learnt was that during the divorce he offered to pay for half of all of my school fees. She instead chose child support, which he has paid for every year. She also took all of their combined savings out and into my 6 years old at the time bank account, which my father had no access to. This meant when showing bank statements, my father had more money than my mother. I've lost some respect for her since then. I once represented a client from a divorcing couple who still lived together pending the sale of the family home but would not speak to one another for any reason whatsoever. Had to negotiate terms with opposing counsel for the sharing of refrigerator space. My brother is a divorce attorney. His most memorable case, he was representing a guy in a divorce custody battle who was accused of horrific abuse. Very graphic, very detailed depositions from the young kids against daddy. Things look grim. Then my brother, a failed actor, notices the deposition transcript, done by social workers under oath, contains a question at the end from one of the kids: did I hit my marks? He wonders how little kids know about acting jargon. Subpoenas wife's personal checking accounts during discovery. Sure enough, acting lessons. Deposes an extremely sketchy acting coach, and panicked coach produces DVDs of practice interrogations with the kids. Hours of coaching the kids on exactly what imaginary things to say about daddy. He says it was his one and only Perry Mason moment in 20+ years of practice, and had got sole custody of the kids. My mom works in divorce court. She comes home with stories that are interesting, sad, funny, and sometimes just weird. It's what you would expect for the most part. Then there are the drug addicts that don't want to give up custody. The day of the drug test comes and the person miraculously decided to shave their entire body. Tests are now given right after the judge asks for one. And some are hilarious when you are not the one involved. My favorite is: a voicemail is played in court as evidence. The wife is cheating on the guy. This voicemail is from the husband to the wife. Hey, I know you are there. The only reason you can't answer is because I know you can't speak with that guy's D in your mouth. Sometimes my mom has those stories which are funny if you are not involved. Worked as courtroom clerk or front desk when I was in college. A couple argued on the custody details on their son. I thought it was the normal "I won't let you see him, you piece of shit." But the mom wants the dad to spend more time during holidays together, all three of them. And the dad wants to do the same, just more frequently. They ended up reconciled and agreed to couples therapy before the divorce procedure went further. Then they came back a month later to withdraw the divorce proceeding. I had a case where the husband found some incriminating texts on his wife's phone that she was cheating on him with some guy, and also gets the impression his sister-in-law might be in on it in some way. Him and his brother end up hiring a private investigator to tail them both to get the truth. They essentially confirm that both women are seeing other people. The sister-in-law admitted full guilt of sleeping with another man and they attempted to reconcile, but his brother eventually filed for divorce. The one wife admitted she was looking to sleep with the guy, but they only met for some kisses and she touched his D a little bit in hoping that would prove that she was still faithful since she couldn't go through with it. He filed for divorce anyway. I'm a real estate lawyer, but a friend of a friend is a divorce lawyer. I was once told a story where said lawyer was brutally attacked by a client's former spouse. Apparently the former spouse blamed the divorce attorney for taking him to the cleaners in the divorce. The worst part is that the lawyer was at the grocery store doing his weekly food shopping with his wife and kids when he was savagely beaten. Criminal lawyers work with the worst people on their best behavior. Family lawyers work with the best people on their worst behavior. Represented the husband. Tried to get court to eliminate his spousal support obligations. Wife insisted she needed the support. It took way longer than it should have because she was regularly taking vacations to Mexico. Regularly equals at least once a month. I worked for a law firm while in college and we had a client who had just come home from a 2-week vacation with his wife only to be served with divorce papers and a temporary restraining order as soon as they pulled in the driveway. Wife didn't say a word and just went into their house. Poor guy came straight to our office and was massively confused, to say the least. Back when I was in law school I was a clerk for a judge that heard a lot of divorce cases. The craziest one involved a gambling addict. The guy would write ridiculous checks to the local casino, 20k, 30k, even 100k plus, all the time. The wife admitted to going with him to the casino each time, but said she only played the penny slots and had no idea he was spending that much money. Because they were splitting the remaining assets, that were still substantial, she wanted the money he spent at the casino to count against him so she would get a whole lot more. While there were copies of the checks, it was his word against hers as to whether she knew about them and whether she was also playing the high stakes games. The husband said she knew and she played the high stakes games too. I remember the oral hearing was the last week that I worked there, so I never heard how it turned out. I do, however, remember the judge thinking they were both lying. which all good judges always believe. Have your own crazy divorce stories? Leave it in the comments below.